Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, I want to talk about the Ruby Falls Redbud that I planted, and then once I'm done showing you that tree, I want to show you all the other stuff that I also planted today. I'm just going to make that into different Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, just so it's more bite-sized pieces of media, but I wanted to kind of show you like a catch-all of everything as you might be seeing it on other platforms over the next week or two. First of all, I've got all my tags laid out here so I can remember everything I've planted and tell you guys the right information. But let's start off with this, Ruby Falls Redbud. So here's the tag if you want to see, but this tree ends up getting 6 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and then it's hardy down to USDA Zone 5. So first of all, as many of you know, I love redbuds. They're by far my favorite tree. I have the Carolina Sweetheart right here. We have a forest pansy at my dad's, and I've always had my eye on the Ruby Falls, and a couple of my friends also have the Ruby Falls too. Now, because I live in Rhode Island, I actually really wanted to plant a Rhode Island red Japanese maple, but everywhere that I went to was already sold out for this season, and I really wanted to get something in this spot for the season. So I was thinking, what would be the next best thing if I can't find that kind of Japanese maple? It didn't have to be a big tree. We've already got the Kwanzan flowering cherry, which is a nice green tree. We also have evergreen interest from here. We also have a limelight hydrangea here, and then the rest of that isn't as necessary to talk about. It's kind of more focusing on this vista here. There was no other red. I wanted some sort of focal point of red that was going to be here. The Rhode Island red Japanese maple only gets about 6 feet tall and wide, so it would have been a nice spot here, but I think this is going to be the next best thing, and there's also nothing weeping. I actually don't think I have anything weeping in this backyard whatsoever, so now I'll have a nice aspect of weeping, which will also be very nice to contrast this pinpoint blue fall cypress. Definitely contrasting colors, but also contrasting habit. Very upright, very columnar, very flowing down, kind of like a waterfall type thing. And this tree is just getting started. It's hardly even weeping at this point. You can see this branch here is a good example of it, but all these branches are going to continue to spread down. So it says it'll get 6 feet tall. If you wanted to plant your own tree, you could always take one of these stems and just limit up, or not limit up, but stake it up, and then you could have the tree get taller from there because it'll keep creating more branches on either side. But my hope for this was to have something that would cover more space so it's less area to worry about with the weeds, but something that wasn't going to get too big because this tree is eventually going to grow pretty much right over it. So hopefully it'll still get enough sun as the years go by. I'm not super concerned about it because it would always get morning sun for sure. But a nice red color, and then it also flowers pink in the spring. So this tree, I'm really excited to see how it does here. I did try to plant it up a little bit, but I'm really excited about this. I'm not really planning on pruning or doing anything with it. I'm just gonna see how it grows over the next couple of years and see how it fills in. But generally these trees just kind of do their own thing, and eventually I will remove the stake. But for now, I think I'm gonna leave the stake at least until maybe the fall or the end of the season once it starts to root in a little bit. And then at that point, I can probably get rid of it. I just want to show you quick too. This is the Carolina Sweetheart Redbud. We're into the middle of July. Now we do have an issue with some things eating redbuds. I haven't researched it yet, so if any of you know, let me know. The tree itself is fine. I mean, I'm not too concerned about it. It just more is an aesthetic thing. But the tree is also pushing out new growth, which is really exciting. I hope it's not from stress. I'm hoping it's just because it's actually really healthy and it's just pushing out more. There's a couple other things in the garden that are doing the same thing actually, but another really cool redbud if you happen to like them. And this I think is hardy to zone 6. But like I mentioned, I have been planting a lot of other stuff, and I'm posting a lot of short videos on this, so you'll see it on YouTube Shorts as well as Instagram and TikTok if you happen to follow me on there. But I wanted to just give you some overall perspective. I feel like this is a good kind of like holding point where I can gather all my information together. This is like home base, is the main long form videos on YouTube. So let me show you everything that I have planted pretty much all today. You're just gonna see it over the course of a couple weeks because things are starting to fill in quite a bit around here, and I'm very excited. Okay, so starting back around this redbud, if you saw my last video, these are the hydrangeas. This is about a week later. I've just got crabgrass to clean up, but I already talked enough about those hydrangeas. Let's talk about this Arizona apricot gallardia, because this is a really gorgeous plant. I cannot plant echinacea. I also can't plant rudbeckia in my garden. So this is a really good alternative to plant different varieties of gallardia because the rabbits don't really seem to touch this. They might nibble on it a little bit, but generally they don't seem to touch it. This variety gets about 8 to 12 inches tall and wide. I think it's hardy in zones 4 through 9 if I'm not mistaken. And my hope was I wanted it right at the front because it doesn't get much bigger than it is, next to the tiny quickfire hydrangea, and this will be a nice red backing behind it. The last thing I have to do with this bed is find something to fill in kind of this middle space that's definitely going to be a little bit on the taller side and can eventually take some shade as this tree starts to grow. But I love the Arizona apricot gallardia. What's also really nice about gallardia compared to some other flowers is it's very long blooming, but here's a bud, as you can see, starting to leaf out, or flower, I guess. Here's a flower that's fully open, and then this is actually what the remaining seed head looks like. That doesn't look bad to me. Like, I actually don't mind the look of the old flowers. They don't deadhead themselves, but I don't feel the need to actually have to go and clip back all these things because they really don't look that bad compared to the rest of this. So I love gallardia. I might end up adding some more of it in the future if I can get my hands on it, but it's not a super common annual to find, or a perennial, not annual. Moving on from here, just working our way this way, I found these from Home Depot on sale. They were only like $3 a piece. They were quart-size coral jade sedum. They're a really nice sedum from Proven Winners, and sedum is another plant that does very well for me because the rabbits don't touch it. So here's the front of the tag if you'd like to see, and then the back of the tag, but these sedum are going to get 16 to 18 inches tall. Then you can space them 28 to 30 inches wide, and they're hardy in zones 3 through 9. You can see that they're just budded up. They're gonna start blooming pretty soon. It's a nice pink color. They look a little scrawny now, which is exactly why they were on sale, but my hope was Midnight Masquerade blooms towards the spring, Serendipity alliums are blooming now, and then they'll kind of bloom at the same time. This is more of a pink, more of a purple, and then we got the Limelight hydrangeas about to bloom. These will fill in this entire front space, and the Midnight Masquerade generally stays taller than these are going to get. So I just did 3 right here, and I'm trying to do more perennial groupings, trying to grow things in 3s. Like I mentioned before, I want to try to add more of those alliums in this front area just to fill up this spot, because it makes more of an impact when you plant more than one thing, especially when it's something that doesn't grow super large like these sedum. Speaking of sedum, right here there's a grouping of 3 sedum. I actually planted this one last year, and my thought was the same thing I was just explaining, to just make more of an impact and have more of the same thing. I figured I've got so much empty space, why don't I add 2 more here? And then if you walk onto the other side of kind of this tropical bed, I did the same thing. This one actually looks a little bit better in my opinion. This one's pretty full this year, and then I added 1 there and 1 there. So here's the tag, Frosted Fire, and then you can see all the information here, but full sun, 12 to 15 inches tall, 12 to 18 inches wide, zones 3 through 9. All right, you guys ready for the baby Christmas tree? This is now my second plant from Isley that I have in this garden, and hoping it's the second of many more. So here's the tag. It's called Arnie's Dwarf Nordman Fir. Here's the back of it. You could see it gets 10 feet tall by only 2 feet wide. And then hardiness, I think, is a zone 5. That's what -20 is. So the cool thing about this tree is, first of all, it's a fir. It's not a spruce. And firs tend to be a lot softer, which is really nice. A lot of people that get Christmas trees, like live ones in the winter, it's a fir, but not usually a Nordman fir. This is really awesome. I learned about these plants at URI in a class, and I fell in love with firs ever since. So I've been wanting to add one, but I didn't have the right space for it until now. What's cool about this is because it only gets 2 feet wide, and you can really see the habit on here. Like, look at how narrow that tree stays. And that's not even pruned. That's just how they naturally grow. My hope is this limelight is going to continue to get pretty big. I'm going to prune it back quite significantly every year so it doesn't get crazy. But we've got a Maimone Weigela, which isn't going to get much bigger than that. This will just be a nice tall focal point, almost to like mirror the blue pinpoint cedar, but it's definitely going to have a little bit of a different shape. That's going to stay narrower. That's going to get like about, I think it's 4 to 6 feet wide if I'm not mistaken. Just a nice, beautiful evergreen accent. And it looks small right now. It is small. It's probably only about like 1.5 feet tall. But this, I'm sure next year is going to push out some good growth. In about 3 to 5 years, that's going to have a pretty good size on it. So that's it for this bed. That starts with the tropicals over in this section, and then you kind of walk your way all the way over and make it to the Kwanzaa cherry here. Nothing else is new in this bed, so I still have some holes to fill, but it's getting there. Let's take a look at the island bed. Speaking of a full bed, this bed is really starting to look full. It's actually, I don't even know if I'm gonna add anything else at this point. I think I'm just gonna let things grow in. So I talked about in the last video how I added those 2 Montgomery blue spruces, which are awesome. Now we have nice pieces of winter interest for these 2, as well as the false cypress. The name is escaping me, but this is the other Isley plant that I have. So I think it's Gymborne Beauty is the name of that one. So I added Coreopsis, which I don't really love Coreopsis, but I wanted a yellow flowering perennial that was going to flower for a while, and this is one that rabbits generally don't seem to touch. So the tag here, you can see it's called Early Sunrise. This one, it's hardy in zones 4 through 9. You can see it says rabbit resistant right there. 18 inches tall, 24 inches wide. So I have one here, and then because I was trying to keep a common theme with this bed, I have the same grouping of plants over there. So then in front of it, because that one will get to be, that's kind of like the second level for the garden, I have these Sun Sparkler Plum Dazzled Sedum. These are, let's see, so full sun I would say is best for sedum, but they can do a little bit of partial sun. Only 8 inches tall, 18 inches apart. And then 4 through 9 for these sedum. So it's a nice, beautiful purple. They bloom late summer. They're just starting to bud up now, but sedum do very well for me. They're a really great plant. And as long as you don't give them too much water and don't fertilize them, then they won't flop on you too much, at least for the climate that I happen to live in. And they look really nice later on in the fall. They just need to cut back once a year and then they're good. So I got those 2 here. And then if I walk over this way, you can see the same sedum and the same grouping right here. Now in the middle here, so Coreopsis, sedum right here, spruce, weigela, and then gallardia. This is an Arizona sun gallardia that I planted last year. I planted 2 more gallardia, and here I was at the garden center. I didn't even look at the tags. I thought both of them were Arizona sun. Turns out neither one of them were. They're the spin top series though, so we've got red starburst and we've got copper sun. Now, I don't know, that looks the same as this. So I don't know if these tags are correct. I would say maybe one of them is this variety. I don't think anything looks like this. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess that could just be like a darker version. Anyways, it doesn't matter. They all look close enough in terms of the color that I think it's gonna match with all of them together. They're all generally the same in terms of like sizing and that kind of stuff too. But yeah, 8 to 12 inches tall, 12 to 16 inches apart, zones 4 through 9. I think the other one is just a little bit, you can see spacing is 10 to 12 instead of 12 to 16. So one of them might get a little wider if those tags happen to be right. But you know, when you're at a garden center, sometimes things get switched around. We'll see. They're all red and orange gallardia, which is not usual for me to plant, but I think it works in this space. And I'm happy that I at least have more gallardia. Now the last thing I planted in this bed is called Sun King Aurelia. I planted this in one other spot as well, which I'll show you. That's what's right here. Now I'm also curious if any of you know if this happens to be maybe slug damage, because it's not from rabbits. It's definitely an insect type thing, but it's funny. The closer to the house you are, the less of that type of damage you see, the further towards the back that you get. Like some stuff in this bed is just kind of obliterated. I don't even want to show you this bed right now. So I'm wondering if it's slugs, if it's some other insect, maybe just Japanese beetles. I'm not really sure. But at the very least, the plants themselves are fine. The Sun King Aurelia though, it's really nice. It's a good for like a part sun situation. So they might get a little scorched here for now, but again, I'm trying to plan for the future with this tree providing some shade over time. It is south facing, so generally these are still gonna get a decent amount, but they will get shaded as time goes on. And stuff like this, I might have to move and replace it with more shade stuff, but it'll be fine for at least a few years. If you take a look here, it actually gets 36 inches tall and wide and then hardy down to zone 3. They do bloom as well. They have like a white flower in the late summer, early fall. So I don't know if these are gonna bloom this year. They might. But my hope was just for these to cover up this whole circle right over here. And then I might just have a couple other spots to fill in this bed. But this bed is pretty much close to being done at this point. I'm very happy with all the color that it has. And at this point, I just gotta wait for things to start to fill in. I've got one more spot to show you in the backyard, and then there's just a couple things in the front yard, but we're gonna talk about some Pugster amethyst buddleia. So I saw these at Home Depot today. I figured I'd take a stop by, and they have their sale going on where they have like 50% off different shrubs and stuff like that. So I saw these buddleia. You'll see a short on this for me actually cleaning all these up. But what I did was these Pugster amethysts stay nice and small. I'm grabbing the tag right here. So these buddleia, they definitely do best in full sun, which is definitely what they're going to get. They only get 2 feet tall and wide, and then hardy in zones 5 through 9. So my thought was, this happens to be about the same size, maybe a little bit smaller than the Let's Dance Skyview hydrangeas. So I've got a Skyview on this side, either side of the deck, the stairs coming down here, if I can get my words out. These are going to be a nice, almost like perennial, but very much front of the border plant, so it'll fill up this spot, and then I'll just continue where you can see there's the Russian sage here. We've got the Japanese umbrella pine, and then if I walk on this side, there was the same amount of space available, or just about the same amount available, where I've got the hydrangea here, and then these are the Oh So Easy Italian Ice Roses. They're kind of in a bloom cycle right now, or in between cycles, but you can see some of the color on these. This I'm about to cut this out. There's just a couple more blooms that are going to open on here. So nice pink and yellow, beautiful bluish purple color, because we have more acidic soil, so they stay more on that blue side. And then you can see the amethyst. It's almost the same color. In fact, you actually can see them in bloom right now. It's almost the same color as this hydrangea, but it is a little bit more just that purple color and just like a little bit lighter in general. So I think that it works nicely. And then we've got actually almost the same thing. So it's very much a purple theme happening, but it's nice to have a little bit broken up with the roses here. Okay, so we're moving into the side of the front yard over here, and you can see there's actually one more Aurelia that I just planted. Again, these get about 3 feet tall and wide. This is a pretty empty space. I got all this stuff from Great Garden Plants last year, so this is gonna fill in nicely, but I still had a couple of holes. There's hostas, brunnera, hellebores here. So I have this space, and then I have this space still to fill up here. But I figured if that gets 3 feet, I'll put that in the back, and then I could put something shorter in the front for this shade bed. This might stay a little more green in the shade, but I think generally it still has more of that limey color in general. So there's that up here, and then it's just this bed that I have a couple other things planted. Okay, so where I added some more plants is right in this very front section. I planted some sedum last year, if you guys remember that video, and it didn't come back for some reason, which really surprised me because usually I have pretty good luck with sedum. But anyways, this is a variety of lavender. There's 3 of them here, and it's called Phenomenal, and it is truly a phenomenal lavender. It is truly my favorite variety of lavender that I've ever grown. It does so well. I planted a number of these at the garden center in the ground, and I also planted them kind of in a situation like this, where it's near the street, there's a lot of salt and sand and stuff like that in the winter, so I'm hoping that these will survive a lot better over the winter. If I take a look at the tag here, 24 to 36 inches tall and wide, zones 5 through 8. These are definitely one of the larger size lavender, but very much worth having in the garden. I think also it ties in pretty well with the color scheme, since we got the Miss Molly buddleia, and we also have the Incredible hydrangeas. Now, we also have this here, which I can't find the tag for some reason, so I had to look it up on my phone. It's a variety from Monrovia called Max Frey Bloody Cranesbill. You can see it's hardy in zones 4 through 8, and then it wants full sun, and then it grows about 12 inches tall by 18 inches wide. So you can see this variety here. It's not in bloom at the moment because it blooms more in the spring, and it's not in complete full sun because it does get a little bit of shade from this Amur maple that's here. But I think in general it'll be okay. It just is the most shaded spot in this garden, and hardy geraniums are generally ones that will do better in a little more shade. So that's everything I've planted so far. Who knows when I'm gonna get more plants again and start to fill some more of these holes here, but I'm very happy with where things are sitting right now. I've got a lot of holes filled at this point, and it's looking very colorful, especially at this time of year in the garden, which is exactly what I was looking for. So I'm very excited to see how things continue to fill in. And if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Try my best to answer them as best as I can. Besides that, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you in the next one.